Cayman Gok there in Washington. Later today, the German Parliament will commemorate the millions of people who were persecuted and murdered during the Nazi regime. It comes after world leaders and survivors gathered for the 80th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz. Deutsche Welle correspondent Thomas Sparrow joins us now from Berlin. Thomas, so what role does Holocaust remembrance still play in Germany 80 years after the end of World War II?
It plays an absolutely essential role here in Germany. It has been absolutely key to understand how Germany has developed since the end of the Second World War. That culture of remembrance has changed throughout the decades, but now a majority of people here in the country and a majority of politicians also believe that it is particularly important to recognize Germany's responsibility and to do so openly. You may know that here in Berlin, not far away from where we are speaking, there's a big memorial that not only commemorates victims but also recognizes Germany's responsibility. And as such, this is something that has been very important also towards Germany's image abroad. But what you also see nowadays, especially from members of the far right, is that they've been asking for a change to that culture of remembrance. Only a few days ago, you saw, for example, during an AfD party conference, the AfD being Germany's far right party, calls for that guilt to be changed, for Germans to feel proud again, for that responsibility to, in many ways, be actually rethought. And some of those comments actually not only came from German politicians, but from Elon Musk, the head of X, who is one of the biggest, staunchest supporters of the far-right AfD. These comments obviously caused a lot of concern here among Germans, among the majority of the population, who still believe that it is absolutely vital to remember those who were affected by the Holocaust, to recognize Germany's responsibility and make sure this doesn't happen again.
And what was the key message given by world leaders and survivors as they commemorated the liberation of Auschwitz?
One important element that was discussed, that was absolutely clear also during those commemorations, is that younger generations also need to understand that responsibility, especially those who saw Auschwitz firsthand, who were affected by the atrocities firsthand. They are getting old. They've been dying in the last few years, so survivors are very few now, and as such there is a call for younger generations to also step up and understand that responsibility and understand the role that they have to play when it comes to preventing these kinds of atrocities from happening again. There was also at the same time a message that there's a rising anti-Semitism in many parts of the world. That is something that's also evident, by the way, here in Germany, and as such calls for that rising anti-Semitism to be tackled, not only by politicians, but by societies as a whole.
And there have been attempts to deny the Holocaust by the far right in Germany. How are authorities tackling that?
Essentially by criticizing those comments from the far right, by stressing that that's not the way forward, that the way forward is to continue that culture of remembrance, that obviously that culture of remembrance may evolve with time, but that's something that might remain, that must remain, is that idea that Germany's responsibility is evident and clear, that Germany is aware of that responsibility and what it entails, and that the current leadership, but also younger generations, must be aware of the responsibility and what that culture of remembrance actually entails. It's not just about honoring the victims, something that will happen later on Wednesday in the German Parliament, but also about understanding that that responsibility comes with actions, for example, when it comes to tackling anti-Semitism, or to making sure that those comments from the far right remain, if you will, within the far right and then do not become much more popular among Germany's population.
OK, Thomas Sparrow there in Berlin. A quick look at tomorrow's